It was 1972. At Cine Studios in Rome, the sound field buzzed with the controlled chaos of large international filming. Bruce Lee's ambitious, self-directed film, The Road to the Dragon, the project that is about to turn him into a legend, is at the peak of production. The morning chill burned under the lights, and a man named Hiroshi Suzuki took the third stage. Just emerged from a popular Japanese action drama series, the unshakable confidence of a man who has devoted his life to perfecting classical judo and karate. He watched Mr. Lee's choreographed fight with a local stuntman. Just then, his mockery was loud enough to be heard throughout the room, declared that this is not a real battle and that real judo ends in seconds. Bruce Lee did not flinch. By age 32, the inventor of Jeet Kune Do had learned to measure his language as carefully as he walked, and he has been around long enough to recognize when someone is looking for a response. He just kept using those fast. The electric stunts look almost too fast to be true. The director stepped in to calm things down. Laughing, he advised them to save the real fight for after lunch, but the worry behind his eyes exposed him because he knew the men and knew exactly where it would go. Suzuki is 5'11", rooted like an oak tree and has no interest in retreating, mixed with stiff politeness and silent threats. He insisted that he was not talking about the movie wars at all, but about what happens when tradition meets the street. In the corner, an assistant photographer said to be snapping behind the scenes quietly rotates his camera. This is convenient for legend. It's just light contact, Lee finally said. Soft and intense. Mr. Suzuki nodded, and the friendly demonstration turned into something else. The crew held their breath as they circled each other on the polished floor. Suzuki's deep, determined low tackle, classic judo, the kind of entrance that should fold a man in half, his hands straight into Lee's legs. Lee wasn't there at all. Lightning like sideways motion leaves the tackle clutching nothing but air. Before Suzuki could recover, Mr. Lee used his famous inch of force to knock his forefoot into the man's knee. That sent the big man staggering back 3 full steps. The director's eyebrows went straight to the ceiling, because it's not the dance anyone imagines. It's impressive, Mr. Suzuki grumbled, although you can now hear frustration creeping in as he calls for more promised measures. When the second round arrived, he became a counterproductive man and a tough partner. Karate in textbooks was built on the power to reach and take root, but Mr. Lee immediately understood the whole story. He leaned over, parried with his forearm, and drove a short. The crack in the sharp cross, which pierced the rib, made the crew frown. Even the stunt coordinator who witnessed the 10000 fist dive whisper, "Ouch." "Should we continue?" the director whispered, because everyone knows that this is no longer about movies. Casual curiosity in the room has burned into something closer to awe. Even food service providers stopped to watch. Suzuki's breathing had completely changed, and the easy swagger from his entrance was long gone. Despite the air conditioning, there were still beads of sweat on his forehead. Lee, on the other hand, remained eerily calm, still relaxed, still flowing, as if nothing had happened. "Are you ready for the next one?" Lee asked, without any mockery. That makes the problem more difficult. The end is the frame-by-frame replays. Suzuki threw everything into a forearm smash and turned it into a large shoulder throw. Now, it's despair, not technology, and Mr. Lee moves like water around a rock. Smashing whistles flew innocuously, throwing almost to the ground. Just then, Lee's hand suddenly reached out and grabbed the sleeve, turned the whole thing upside down like a man closing a window at will. The next thing happened in slow motion and at full speed. At least everyone who swore to see it said so. The wrist lock entered the elbow, making a sharp crack. Then Lee fell and exploded. Hit your hips and shoulders in the middle of Suzuki at the perfect time. As he recovered, he relaxed his guard and lost his balance. Grab Masters off the ground. For a surreal second, he hangs there, flies in the air. His GI rolled like a broken bird's wing. Then he collapsed with a pure shock. Silence engulfed the stage. A thin streak of blood ran down his nose, one hand on his shoulder. Then boom microphones captured what he could only say in the dead room. "Stop! I stop!" Lee stood beside him, his chest barely raised. Looking down, there was no victory, just a quiet professional interest. Then he reached out a hand and told him, "You're fighting purposefully, teacher." Somehow, the gesture was the most damaging part of the encounter. The process lasted less than 90 seconds. In those 90 seconds, the immovable object encountered unstoppable force and lost its direction. That's where the legend really goes. Suzuki reportedly demanded that each frame be destroyed. Order them to kill the video. All this, now, an NDA, began flying around the set faster than refilling coffee. Everyone signed because the man's entire mystique evaporated in front of more than 30 witnesses, and no one could reveal anything. An assistant photographer, it is said, quietly tuck a copy of the scroll into your bag and tag it with silly labels like Dragon Rehearsal, Alt Take 2. Then the scroll sat in a box for nearly 50 years until his death. When a nephew handed a stack of old film to an archivist, that's how the 37-second particles finally hit the internet and turned it on. This is the legend, from beginning to end. Honestly, that's why it's so good, because the real magic here is never dice. It's worth understanding why we ate this so eagerly. Bruce Lee died at 32. At his peak, that means we'll never see how far he can go. That void is exactly what such a story is eager to fill. It gave Bruce Lee what we always wanted. A sober philosopher who lets a loudspeaker speak with his mouth and then proves himself wrong, but never raises his voice. A resilient weak man educates a rigid old guard. We wanted the story so badly that we kept telling it. Maybe that's the real answer for an action star facing a real challenge. In real life, it may be more chaotic, slower, and far less cinematic than all this. But in fact, half a century later, we're still making up myths around this man, which tells you everything about the shadow he still casts. So why do legends like this exist even without solid support? Put aside your comments because I really want to hear them. If you like this behind-the-scenes movie legend, keep clicking because I've been digging up stories like this.